The evening breeze carried the faint aroma of cardamom tea through the small but neatly kept living room. Sana sat on the sofa, her fingers gently turning the pages of a household budget diary. She was the kind of woman who liked to keep things in order, receipts stacked, bills neatly pinned, every rupee accounted for. With her careful planning, the family of 3, herself, her husband Fahad, and their little son, lived comfortably, even if not extravagantly. But lately, she had noticed something strange. The numbers didn't add up. She leaned back, chewing her lower lip. I paid the electricity bill last week. The groceries were $12,000. Then what about this withdrawal? $5,000 vanished overnight again. Her heart sank. Fahad had become secretive with money. Once cheerful about her careful budgeting, now he brushed off her questions with a vague, "Don't worry, Sana, I'll handle it." That evening, when Fahad returned from work, his mother was already waiting in the kitchen. Amy, soft-spoken yet sharp-eyed, was stirring lentils on the stove. She looked at her son, her expression warm but slightly mischievous. "Fahad Beta," she whispered as he entered, "did you get the shoes you wanted?" He hesitated, then sighed. "Not yet, Amy. The money, well, I tried yesterday, but—" She glanced over her shoulder, careful that Sana wasn't nearby. Then she pulled her handbag closer, reached in, and discreetly slid a card into his hand. "My ATM card. The password is the same. Use it, darling. Why struggle when your mother can help?" Fahad's eyes softened. "Amy, you shouldn't. Sana will." "She doesn't need to know," Amy cut in, lowering her voice. "You're my son. If I don't stand by you, who will?" A mixture of guilt and relief passed over Fahad's face. He squeezed the card tightly. "Thank you, Amy." From the hallway, Sana's voice called out, "Fahad, can you help me with the baby's school form?" Amy quickly turned back to the stove, pretending to stir harder. Fahad slipped the card into his wallet, forcing a casual tone. "Coming, Sana." The days that followed carried on like an unspoken game of hide and seek. Sana noticed Fahad's new branded shirt, the extra takeaway food he brought home from colleagues, and the unexplained cash withdrawals in her diary. One evening, she confronted him gently. "Fahad," she said, setting the diary on the table, "there's money missing again. Did you withdraw something I don't know about?" He avoided her eyes, pretending to check his phone. "Work stuff, don't stress over it." "Work stuff," she pressed, "but you said your office pays for your travel and meals." He stiffened, then forced a smile. "Sana, please, you worry too much, trust me." She wanted to believe him. For years, she had trusted him blindly, but a cold knot of suspicion began forming in her chest. Late that night, as Sana folded laundry, she overheard faint whispers from the kitchen. Fahad's voice, low, hurried, spoke into the phone. "Yes, Amy, I used it. Don't worry, Sana doesn't know. Yes, I'll be careful. No, she didn't ask much." Sana's hands froze mid-fold. Her breath caught. "Amy's card? Password? What is he hiding from me?" The realization struck her like ice water down her spine. Fahad was using his mother's card, without telling her. The next morning, Sana watched him leave for work with a tightened jaw. She said nothing, but inside her, the quiet storm grew stronger. Meanwhile, Amy seemed unusually cheerful, her heart swelling with the satisfaction of protecting her son. She believed she was doing the right thing, helping Fahad escape the burden of his wife's strict budgeting. But what she didn't know was that boundaries once crossed rarely returned. Each time Fahad swiped her card, he stepped deeper into a secret that could shatter everything. And Sana, she was no fool. She had caught the faintest threads of truth, and though she stayed silent for now, her patience was thinning. She didn't know it yet, but soon, the day would come when Amy herself would slam the door on this hidden arrangement. And when that door closed, the whole house would shake. The week rolled on quietly, though an undercurrent of unease lingered in the house. Sana moved through her days with a careful smile, yet her mind often drifted back to Fahad's late-night whispers. The words, "Don't worry, Sana doesn't know," echoed again and again in her ears. She wanted to ask him directly, but something inside held her back. Instead, she waited. Sometimes silence reveals more than questions. Saturday morning arrived, bright with the promise of rest. Fahed dressed early, slipping on his crisp white shirt and neatly polished shoes. He looked unusually eager. "Where are you going?" Sana asked, adjusting their son's school bag. "Just meeting an old friend," Fahed replied lightly. "We might grab lunch, don't wait for me." She nodded, though her eyes lingered on him. The same shirt he wore on their last anniversary, now paired with a faint scent of expensive cologne. As he left, Sana whispered to herself, "Let's see what you're really hiding, Fahed." Fahed drove to the mall with excitement bubbling in his chest. He had been eyeing a sleek new smartwatch for weeks. A small indulgence, he told himself, nothing more. After all, Amy's card was always there, his silent safety net. Inside the electronics store, he picked up the watch, admiring its glossy surface. "I'll take this one," he told the salesman, reaching confidently for his wallet. The cashier swiped the card. Beep, declined. Fahed blinked. "Try again." Beep, declined. The cashier gave a polite but firm smile. "Sir, it's not going through." A nervous sweat broke across his forehead. He stepped aside, fumbling for his phone. "Amy," he whispered urgently when she picked up. "Yes, Beta." Her voice was calm, almost cheerful. "The card, it's not working. Did you change the password?" A pause, then her gentle but firm reply. "Yes, darling, I had to. It's not right. I've been thinking Sana is beginning to notice. I can't let her suspect you. It's safer this way." Fahed's chest tightened. "Amy, how could you? I needed it today." Her tone softened. "Beta, you're a grown man. You can't keep leaning on me for these things. Your wife will find out and it will only create fights. I had to protect you." His voice dropped, tinged with panic. "But Sana will." From behind him, a faint cough. He turned sharply. Sana stood a few steps away, their son's small hand in hers, her eyes piercing straight into his. "Sana, what are you doing here?" he stammered. She tilted her head slightly, her lips curved in a half-smile that wasn't really a smile at all. "Shopping, Fahed, just like you." The tension in her gaze told him everything. She had heard enough. On the way back home, silence filled the car. Fahed gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles pale. Sana sat beside him, her eyes fixed out the window. Her mind a storm of unanswered questions. She had seen the card. She had heard the word password. She wasn't foolish. Her instincts screamed the truth. At last, she broke the silence. "Whose card was that, Fahed?" He swallowed hard. "Just Amy's, I was borrowing it." "Borrowing?" Her voice carried both disbelief and quiet fury. "Or hiding?" He tried to steady his tone. "You don't understand. It's not what it looks like." Her jaw clenched. "Then explain. Because from where I stand, it looks like you've been sneaking behind my back, using your mother's money, lying to me." He gripped the wheel tighter, unable to answer. Back at home, Sana moved about quietly, tidying dishes, folding laundry, keeping her hands busy to calm the rage that bubbled inside her. Fahed lingered nearby, hovering between apology and defensiveness. Finally, she turned to him, her voice steady but cold. "Fahed, marriage is built on trust. Do you know how it feels to realize my husband has been lying? To see him holding another card in secret, whispering to his mother as if I'm some outsider." His eyes dropped. "Sana, it was never about you. Amy just wanted to help me. I didn't want to burden you with." "Burden me?" she cut in sharply. "I am your wife, not your accountant, not your stranger. If you had a need, you could have told me. Instead, you hid, you deceived, and you let your mother be part of it." Her words struck him harder than any blow. Later that evening, Amy entered the living room with her usual warm smile, carrying a plate of cut fruit. But the moment she saw Sana's expression, tight, guarded, her heart skipped. "What happened?" she asked, looking between them. Sana's reply was short. "Why don't you ask your son, Amy?" Fahed closed his eyes briefly. The storm had arrived, and there was no shelter left. The night stretched heavy. Sana barely spoke during dinner. Fahed picked at his food, Amy quietly observing the strained air. When their son finally fell asleep, Sana stood by the window, her voice breaking the silence. Fahad, today you embarrassed me, not because of money, but because of trust. If your mother hadn't changed that password, how long would you have continued this secret? How many more lies? He had no answer. And Amy, she sat quietly on the sofa, guilt flickering in her eyes. She had wanted to protect her son, but now she saw clearly. Her protection had built walls between husband and wife. The very bond she had hoped to safeguard was now cracking before her eyes. The house was heavy with silence the next morning. Breakfast sat untouched on the table, the steam from the paradas long faded into the still air. Sana moved quietly, setting down a glass of water in front of her son, who sensed the tension and nibbled his food without a word. Fahad sat opposite Sana, his shoulders stiff, eyes avoiding hers. Amy, usually the peacemaker of the house, hovered nearby, her hands twisting nervously at the edge of her dupatta. She had seen enough family quarrels in her lifetime to recognize when a storm was about to break, but this one was different. This storm was born in the very heart of her home. Finally, Sana spoke, her voice calm but sharp, like a blade carefully unsheathed. Fahad, we need to talk. No more excuses, no more hiding. He shifted uneasily. Sana, please, not in front of Amy. But Sana's gaze flicked to Amy deliberately. Why not? She's part of this, isn't she? Amy's lips parted in surprise. Beta I. No, Amy, Sana interrupted firmly, though not disrespectfully. This time I need the truth. Both of you owe me that. Fahad rubbed his temples, frustration and guilt battling inside him. Sana, you're blowing this out of proportion. It was just a card, just some money. Amy was helping me. Helping you? Sana's voice rose, controlled but laced with hurt. Or enabling you to lie to your wife. Tell me, Fahad, when you whispered on the phone at night, when you hid that card in your wallet, when you walked past me with new shirts and expensive cologne, was that helping too? Or was that betraying my trust? He flinched, his defenses cracking under her words. Amy stepped forward, her voice soft but trembling. Sana, don't be so harsh. Fahad is my son. If I can't stand by him, who will? He only wanted small comforts. You run the house so tightly, sometimes a man feels suffocated. The words stung Sana like a slap. Her eyes widened, filling with disbelief. Suffocated? Amy, I have never denied him anything. I budget, yes, because I want our family safe. I stretch every rupee so our child doesn't lack. Is that suffocation, or is it responsibility? The room fell silent for a moment. Amy lowered her gaze, her guilt surfacing, but she still clung to her instinct to shield her son. Fahad's voice cracked, defensive but hollow. I didn't want to bother you, Sana. I thought if Amy helped quietly, it would spare you the stress. Spare me the stress? Sana's laugh was bitter. You think finding out my husband hides things from me is less stressful than being honest? Do you even hear yourself? Her voice shook now, the calm giving way to raw emotion. Marriage is supposed to be partnership, Fahad, not you and your mother on one side and me left in the dark. The words landed like heavy stones in the room. Amy's eyes flickered with shame. She hadn't meant to create this divide, but now she saw how deeply it cut. For the first time in years, Sana's eyes brimmed with tears of anger. She rarely raised her voice, rarely allowed herself to crumble. But today the dam had broken. Do you know what it feels like, she asked, her voice trembling, to watch the man you trust whisper behind your back, to feel like a stranger in your own home? You lied, Fahad. Not once, not twice, but every day you chose secrecy over honesty. Fahad's lips parted, but no words came. His silence screamed louder than any denial. Amy finally sat down, her hands shaking. Sana, you are right, she admitted softly. I only wanted to ease his burden. I thought a mother's help was harmless, but I see now I gave him permission to deceive you. That was my mistake. Her voice cracked, and tears welled in her eyes. I thought I was protecting him, but I was breaking your home. For a moment, Sana's anger softened, but the wound was still fresh, raw, bleeding. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. This isn't just about money, she said firmly. It's about trust. If Fahad needed something, he should have come to me. If Amy wanted to help, she should have spoken openly. But instead, both of you chose secrets, and secrets are poison in a marriage." Her words hung heavy in the air. The little boy peeked into the room then, his innocent eyes wide. "Mama, Baba, why are you angry?" Sana quickly wiped her tears, forcing a smile for her child. "No, John, Mama's not angry. We're just talking." But the boy's worried gaze lingered on his father. Sensing the tension, he couldn't yet understand. Fahad's heart clenched at the sight of his son. The shame he had buried finally surged up, suffocating him. "Sana," he whispered, his voice breaking, "I was wrong. I should have told you. I thought I was sparing us arguments, but instead I've hurt you more. I'm sorry." Sana's eyes softened, but she didn't let him off so easily. "Sorry isn't enough, Fahad. Sorry won't erase the lies. Trust, once broken, doesn't return with one word." The confrontation ended not with resolution, but with silence. A silence heavier than any shouting match. Sana retreated to the bedroom, closing the door softly behind her. Amy sat on the sofa, her hands covering her face, whispering prayers under her breath. And Fahad remained standing in the middle of the room, torn between two women, the mother who had always sheltered him and the wife who had given him her trust. He realized, painfully, that his choices had left him with both of them wounded. And tomorrow, the real battle would begin. Not about a password, not about money, but about loyalty, respect, and the fragile thread of trust holding his marriage together. The next day began with a suffocating quiet. The kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful but instead hangs heavy, pressing down on everyone like a storm cloud waiting to burst. Sana moved about the kitchen without a word, preparing breakfast for her son. Her hands worked automatically, rolling dough, flipping paradas, but her mind churned with restless thoughts. She had cried herself to sleep the night before, but even her tears had offered no release. Fahad sat in the living room, staring at his untouched cup of tea. Dark circles ringed his eyes. He hadn't slept either. Amy, perched in her usual chair, kept fidgeting with her dupatta, her lips moving in silent prayer. She longed to speak, to mend, to soothe, but for the first time in years her words failed her. Finally, Sana set the breakfast on the table, her movements sharp. She looked at Fahad, her voice low but unwavering. "We can't live like this, Fahad, pretending nothing happened. This house is built on lies now, and I won't accept it." Fahad swallowed hard. "Sana, please, I said I was sorry." Her eyes blazed. "Do you think sorry is enough? Do you think an apology erases betrayal? Every time you whispered to Amy, every time you used that card, you chose secrets over me, and you expect me to just move on." Her voice rose with every word, years of quiet patience finally cracking. Amy tried to intervene, her voice soft. "Beta, don't fight. Families have misunderstandings, but anger will only." But Sana cut her off, her tone sharp but respectful. "Amy, with all due respect, this isn't a misunderstanding. It's deceit, and it started with you." Amy's eyes widened. "Me?" "Yes," Sana said firmly, her voice trembling now. "You gave him the card. You told him to hide it. You made me the outsider in my own marriage. How can you say that's love? How can you justify breaking trust between husband and wife?" Amy's lips quivered, her eyes filling with tears. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I only wanted to ease his burden. He is my son." "And he is my husband," Sana snapped, her voice breaking. "My partner, but you turned him against me. Do you realize what that feels like?" The room shook with her words. Even the walls seemed to echo the pain that had been silenced too long. Fahad finally stood, his own frustration boiling over. "Enough, Sana. Stop accusing Amy like this. She didn't mean any harm. She only wanted to help." Sana whirled to face him, her eyes burning. "Help! Fahad, open your eyes. This isn't help, it's interference. A husband should lean on his wife, not hide behind his mother's shadow. You talk of respect, but where is mine? You embarrassed me, deceived me, and now you defend her instead of acknowledging my pain." Her voice cracked, but her words were like fire. "Do I even matter to you anymore?" Fahad froze, her question hitting him like a dagger. His mouth opened, but no words came. The little boy peeked from the hallway, sensing the storm. Sana quickly turned her face away, wiping her tears so he wouldn't see. She took a deep breath, lowering her tone, but the fury still simmered beneath. Fahad, I married you because I believed in us, because I thought we would share everything, joys, struggles, burdens. But now I feel like I'm competing for your loyalty, and no wife should ever have to fight her husband's mother for trust. The words sliced through the air, leaving only silence. Amy sobbed quietly, whispering, Ya Allah, what have I done? Fahad's chest heaved with guilt, anger, and confusion all tangled together. He wanted to defend his mother, but Sana's pain was undeniable. He wanted to comfort his wife, but Amy's tears cut him deeply. Finally, Sana's voice broke the silence once more. I won't live in a home where secrets are normal. I won't raise my son in a place where lies are excused. So listen carefully, Fahad. She looked him straight in the eyes, her tone steady as stone. Either you choose honesty, or you lose me. The ultimatum hung in the air, sharp and final. Amy gasped softly, her hands trembling. Sana, don't say such things. Divorce, breaking homes, it's not the answer. Sana's eyes softened for a moment, but she didn't back down. I don't want to leave. I want this home. I want this marriage, but only if it's built on trust. If you and Fahad can't give me that, then what am I staying for? Fahad finally spoke, his voice hoarse. Sana, don't say that. Please, I made a mistake. I was weak, but don't threaten to leave me. Her eyes welled with tears. Then prove it, Fahad. Prove to me that you choose us, me and our son, over secrets and shadows. The explosion of words left the house shaken. No one spoke for a long time after. Sana retreated into the bedroom, her body trembling as she locked the door. Amy collapsed onto the sofa, sobbing quietly into her hands, realizing how her love had turned into poison. And Fahad, he stood in the middle of it all, broken, his heart torn between the two women who defined his life. He knew, with painful clarity, that tomorrow he could no longer hide. A decision had to be made. And whatever he chose, nothing would ever be the same again. The house felt fragile the next morning, as though the walls themselves had absorbed the echoes of the previous night's storm. No laughter, no chatter, not even the clinking of cups, just the weight of silence pressing down on everyone. Sana sat at the edge of the bed, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She hadn't slept, her eyes red from tears, but her resolve had only strengthened. She would no longer live as the outsider in her own marriage. In the living room, Fahad sat hunched forward, his head buried in his hands. He looked like a man carrying two mountains, one called loyalty, the other called guilt. Amy sat quietly nearby, rosary beads slipping between her fingers as she whispered prayers under her breath. She had never meant to break the bond of marriage, but her heart knew she had crossed a line. Finally, Sana emerged, her step steady, her face pale but determined. She sat across from Fahad, locking eyes with him. We can't keep dragging this out, she said calmly. It's time we talk, all of us, honestly. Amy shifted nervously, but nodded, understanding that this conversation could no longer be avoided. Fahad swallowed hard. Sana, But she raised a hand, stopping him. No excuses, no half-truths. I want everything laid bare, and I want decisions today. She turned to Amy first, her tone respectful but firm. Amy, I know you love your son. I know everything you've done was from a place of care. But what you don't realize is how much damage it caused. You gave him a card, yes, but what you really gave him was permission to lie to me. You made me feel small, as if I wasn't worthy of honesty. That's not protection, Amy. That's division. Amy's eyes welled with tears. Her voice trembled as she replied, Sana, you are right. I thought I was protecting him from stress, from arguments, but in truth, I was protecting him from his duty. I took away your right as his wife. Forgive me, Beta. I see now that I was wrong. The sincerity in her tone softened Sana's heart, though the pain still lingered. She gave a small nod, acknowledging the apology but not ready to let go completely. Then she turned to Fahad. Her eyes glistened, but her voice was steady. And you, Fahad, you are my husband, the man I built my life around. Do you have any idea what it felt like, watching you whisper with your mother, holding her card in secret, hiding from me? Do you realize what that did to my trust? Fahad's throat tightened. Sana, I know, I failed you. I thought I was sparing you stress, but I see now I was only being cowardly. I leaned on Amy when I should have leaned on you. I let fear rule me instead of honesty. He lowered his gaze, shame heavy in his voice. You have every right to be angry. You have every right to leave me. But please don't. Give me one chance to make this right. Sana inhaled deeply, her heart torn. She loved him. Despite the hurt, despite the betrayal, the love remained. But love without trust was like a house without walls, vulnerable to every storm. Her voice broke slightly as she asked the question that weighed most on her heart. Can I trust you again, Fahad? If I choose to stay, will you choose me, not in words but in truth, in action? Fahad met her gaze, his eyes wet with tears. Yes, I swear it, Sana. No more secrets, no more lies. From this day, every rupee, every decision, we face it together. I will earn back your trust, no matter how long it takes. His sincerity reached her, though the wound would take time to heal. Amy placed her rosary beads down and spoke softly. Sana, you are not just my daughter-in-law, you are my daughter. I should have remembered that. From today, I will never come between you two again. My role is to guide, not to interfere. And I promise you I will respect that boundary. For the first time in days, Sana's tears fell not from anger but from a sense of release. She wiped them quickly, nodding. Thank you, Amy. The family sat in silence for a moment, the air heavy but no longer hostile. Something had shifted. A fragile bridge of honesty had begun to form. Sana looked at Fahad again, her tone softer now. I won't pretend everything is fixed overnight. Trust takes time, but I'm willing to try if you are. He reached across the table, his hand trembling as it found hers. I am, with all my heart. For the first time in days, Sana allowed herself a small, weary smile. Later that evening, the three of them sat together, their son curled up beside Sana. The boy giggled at something on TV, his laughter breaking through the heaviness like sunlight-piercing clouds. Sana glanced at Fahad, who was watching their child with a tenderness she hadn't seen in days. Amy, too, smiled faintly, though her eyes carried the weight of lessons learned. It wasn't a perfect ending. Wounds remained, scars would linger. But for the first time, there was hope, a fragile but real hope, that honesty could rebuild what secrecy had broken. And as Sana leaned her head gently against Fahad's shoulder, she whispered to herself, Marriage isn't about never falling. It's about choosing to rise together.